Hi guys, it's Mark Zicree, Mr. Sci-Fi, Mark Zicree of Space Command, but in this case I am Mark Zicree of Mr. Politics because my Mr. Sci-Fi friends have asked me not to be political on Mr. Sci-Fi, and I think that's appropriate because we welcome everyone of every political stripe into the big science fiction tent if they have a good heart. But I'm very clear that I'm a liberal and I'm on the left and have been my whole life. My mother voted for Eisenhower and regretted it. She said that was the last time she voted for a Republican. So the Supreme Court has just struck down basically the rest of the Voting Rights Act. And I just wanted to talk about this because I think it's time to impeach the right-wing Republican cabal of corrupt Supreme Court judges. And, you know, I was a producer on Sliders for the 4th season, wrote a bunch of those episodes, and we were always talking and thinking about parallel Earths, parallel histories. And, you know, let's go over what the Supreme Court under John Roberts has done and how it's really devastated this country and changed it. The first thing he did that was of major consequence, I think, was choosing Bush, who had clearly lost the vote, to be the president. Now, if Al Gore had been the president, we might not have gotten 9/11 because there was intelligence suggesting what was going to happen, and the Bush administration didn't pay attention. I think Gore would have been a little more on the ball. Additionally, Gore was very strongly anti-global warming, so we would have all these decades of effective legislation and actions to stop global warming. Our world would not be heating up the way it is now, I don't think. But beyond that, he then, the Supreme Court that's created, judged in favor of Citizens United. That meant that a corporation was a human being, and it opened the gates for unlimited anonymous money pouring into political coffers, which again resulted in the corruption of both the Republican and the Democratic Party. So they would be in the thrall, literally in the thrall of powerful corporations and coming to judgments against the interests of the American people. So then they did the Hobby Lobby judgment, which meant that you could claim religious reasons for not serving certain people that you didn't like, not serving certain kinds of people that you didn't like. And then they, of course, struck down Roe v. Wade, even though the majority of the American public favored women's reproductive rights, a woman's decision to choose what was best for her, and not have the state step in to limit that, to enforce judgments of what she should or should not do, which resulted, of course, in women dying in childbirth, miscarriage, which is very common, being suspected and brought under the scrutiny of the legal system, all sorts of terrible things. And but the whole point of all of this was to tilt the country toward rule by autocrats, rule in favor of the rich, rule in favor of those who are essentially anti-democratic, because unbridled capitalism is, by its very nature, and I'm not a communist, I am a capitalist, I like capitalism, but if you don't regulate it, if you don't put limitations on it via the government, as Teddy Roosevelt understood, it'll run roughshod, and its goal will be to destroy democracy, to keep control so that they can have their way, whether or not the American people want it. And now, of course, bit by bit, they've thrown out the Voting Rights Act so that black people will no longer have full franchise. They've been trying to limit it in any number of ways with any number of laws, and now it'll be even worse. So, you know, I've been looking at these judgments over decades as they've corrupted our political system, given more power to the rich, limited the votes. I mean, in a democratic society, you want to encourage voting to be as easy as possible, not make sure that certain people make it hard as possible, okay? Only the right, quote-unquote, people are voting. It's obvious what they're doing. And this is totalitarianism. Anyone who's studied the Roman Empire or the Nazi regime or even the Soviet regime, you see how totalitarianism works, or even Putin's regime, throwing people he doesn't like out windows to their deaths. which I believe is called defenestration, by the way. Nice word, cool word, writers use that word. So, clearly these are corrupt judges. They take gifts without reporting them from rich people who want to influence them. I mean, Senator Whitehouse has been very, very specific about the moves and the acts of Leonard Leo and the Federalist Society, and they've resulted in this very dangerous time where we are careening. We are already in a totalitarian regime. Now we have to see how much of a headlock they have on all of us. And so I keep wondering, I've wondered for decades, why don't you just impeach these corrupt, crooked judges who are looking to take away our rights? That's, I think, the only thing that's really going to work against these guys. Impeachment. They stopped. And another thing they did, of course, is the Republicans stopped Barack Obama from having his Supreme Court pick, which was a first in the history of this country, as far as I know. And as a result, we now have the situation we now have. So, crooked, corrupt men and women have brought us to this terrible place. And I think if we don't want violence, and I don't certainly want violence, it's counterproductive. More than just protests will need to happen. Our elected officials will have to take concrete actions, and we'll all have to fight very, very hard, non-violently, to keep our vote, to keep our rights. I think what happened in Minnesota and Minneapolis with the people rising up and stopping things and slowing the gears of oppression is what we're all going to have to do in the days to come. So that's it for now. I just wanted to say something meaningful in this very perilous time. Thanks a lot, guys, and we will see you next time.